it do, everybody? It's your boy King Crowder, back again with another historical event and story that needs to be told more in detail. Today's topic will be on the lost Roanoke colony, the first organized movement before the Pilgrims and others decided to come in and colonize America. The reason why this is such a big deal because this highlights before the transatlantic slave trade became a big thing. Most of the settlers or future settlers of this land could not figure out ways to provide for themselves. Before the Native Americans were really implemented into American societies, it was so many colonization periods that failed. The Roanoke colony is a relatively spooky one because of the ending is still unknown and we don't know what happened to the people. The Roanoke colony was the first one to crown themselves as the New World. It was over 150 colonists and families that were inside this place over here near the Roanoke, near the North Carolina shore. The Roanoke colony were beginning to establish themselves. With them establishing themselves, they would move themselves into the area. They tried to provide, build, and develop some sort of colony. The reason why this was such a big deal was because they vanished virtually out of nowhere. They could not manage to survive without the help of the Native Americans. This story must be told because it is so influential to what we see happening today. Things are always taught out of context. It was not just European or Anglo-Saxons that came here that helped develop America. It was a concrete involvement of Blacks, Native Americans, and white people. America would not be as strong as it was or is today if those habits did not concurrently go involved with each other. The reason why I think this is such a huge deal and a huge involvement is the story still is not settled to this day. We don't know if they just died of starvation due to lack of finding resources and collecting animals and things to self-sufficient themselves, or if the native population just killed them off, or one of the final theories we always hear about, many white civilizations going into English settlements. So at this time, one thing that is undertold throughout history is that there were plenty of Anglo-Saxons that wanted to assimilate into Indian society. They were unsuccessful with the English settlement and how they did things, so they decided to go into the Native American population. The reason why this is such an incredible big deal was because we have never ever been actually taught how common that was. We were always taught that the Native Americans had to assimilate, the colonial powers conquered, and that was it. We were never taught that there was a back and forth effort or the gray areas about the Black free towns, the Black freedom lands, and how the Anglo-Saxons actually took on the Native Americans' patterns because they couldn't survive on their own. This colonial power of Roanoke highlights and amplifies that. Even though the story is still a mystery or possibly a tragedy, one thing we must know throughout history while we're telling the story of America, we must preach and educate ourselves that it was not one unanimous effort. It was collectively people that were enslaved. It was people that were native to this land and Blacks that were already here that took to develop and build America. We must always remember that when discussing America's foundation, that it was and it took tremendous amount of time, because when many Anglo-Saxon Americans, from the Brits, migrated or tried to come to the Americas, they failed. Before Black settlement happened to help them, many white people at this time failed to establish themselves or build concrete roots. Telling the story is why it's important for us to discuss when we're discussing American history. All right, I'm chiming back out, y'all. Thank you for watching. Wanted to give you a quick overview and lesson on the Roanoke colonies that happened when 115 people just vanished out of nowhere, no sight, no starvation, and we don't know what happened to them. Again, comment, like, or subscribe if you like the channel. Please give me any helpful information or tips. I'm still growing it and still learning. Peace.